So maybe the obvious question you've been asked a lot. What were some of the changes you had to make from the comic to the screen? Did it stay pretty true to what you had there?
I think it stays true to the heart of the story. They really, really loved, the comic, and they wanted to, keep that vibe throughout.
Sorry.
And they did such a great job of, bringing moments from the comic to the screen. But then you also have more time to follow the characters and expand on their stories emotionally.
Yeah, it was entirely additive. It was never like, oh, here's something that we can't duplicate from the comic. Just, what can we add? Our comic only takes place over a couple of nights. And the story, we get to be with these girls for weeks and really see them grow and luxuriate in these moments between them. So, no, it was just, what can we add, the medium of television. It's been awesome.
Can we ask her?
You go ahead.
Please, yeah.
Well, my question was going to be, how are the graphic novels and series connected? So, is it...
I mean, I think if you've read every issue of the comic and you love it, you're still going to be surprised by this. There are things, totally new characters who didn't appear in the comic, but it's not necessary to do both, but we hope if people love the show, they will go back and check out the source material. I think they definitely do. They feed each other.
Yeah, they're definitely. It's almost like a cool remix of the comic, and it gives you a different look at other parts of the story that we weren't able to touch. There's really cool stuff, about the Battle of the Ages, the Time War, that we only kind of got to the edges of in the comic, and so seeing that stuff fleshed out is incredible.
Teenagers being caught up in like a post-apocalyptic or a fantasy or any kind of war or battle, like group of teenagers being at like the center of that is like a very common thing, like not in a bad way. It's a very common thing in media. Like I just wanted to ask, like, why? Like as the writer and creator, like why is that kind of story? Why teens? Like what is the lens of teens getting caught up in this world drama? Why is that always so impactful? Like it's obviously a format that works, and I kind of wanted to ask why.
I think it's because that's when we become who we are. I think around 12 or 13, certainly it's my passions then remain my passions now, and it just, life feels so alive, and everything matters so much. It feels life or death, even when it doesn't. So it's genre, I think, is a great way to sort of explore how it feels to be a young person, because I think you can do just a straight regular drama, but there's something about adding in ray guns and dinosaurs that's like, oh, this is how it feels. So
I've always said with genre that like it's because the world is what's heightened, the human stories get to be the most human as opposed and so I just wondered if that was like also a big
100%,
part of it.
Teenagers are about change. They're changing themselves, but then they also represent some potential to change the world, and that's why I think they keep showing up as a protagonist, because there's always something that's broken that they need to fix, and hopefully fix for the better.
So the comics had an incredible 80s aesthetic to them, and I'm wondering how that comes across on the screen and how you guys kind of, what your input was on making those visuals.
We had so much freedom in the comic to stylize things, to give it a feel that, reminded you of the 80s, from the color palette, from Matt Wilson, and the design and lettering by Jared Fletcher. Like they did all, it all worked together to give you this kind of feel. But with the show, then what we couldn't do was make that stuff feel realistic, photorealistic, and to immerse you in the 80s world and make it feel lived in makes a series, makes you believe it. And then when all the incredible stuff happens, then it's this huge contrast and this this call to adventure. So they did a great job. You can see from some of the stills and trailers and stuff like that, they lean into that color palette, and it's just so wonderful to see. It's a blast to your eyes.
Yeah, you're creators, obviously, but like, what are your roles as the EPs, executive producers? What exactly is it you have your hands on?
I mean, I guess I've been on both sides of this table before. So I've worked on other people's adaptations. I've been adapted, and I guess what I've learned is we have one really important job, which is to find the right partners at the beginning of this journey. And when we find them, it is to trust them. And to say that if Paper Girls worked, it's because Cliff and I put so much of ourselves into it. And if this is going to survive in another medium, you have to put yourself into it. So I think it's just giving them the freedom to say, we trust you. We don't want to see a bad karaoke version of our book where you're just doing it beat for beat. We want you to take it somewhere new. So I think that's there to just give them that freedom, and then to be a resource when they come to us and say, have we strayed too far? Are we on the right path? So it's hang on loosely, don't let go.
Nice. That'd be great.
I wanted to ask about your writer's room, because obviously it's a story about young women, and no offense, you guys are dudes. Like, was there women in the writer's room to like help bring this to
Absolutely.
life?
Other than Chris Rogers, our showrunner, but other than that, it was an entirely female writer's room. Every director of this season happened to be a woman, and yeah, it was vitally important, obviously, to have that input. And I think there are a couple of things, like episode 5 just has a moment that's unlike anything I've seen in television, that came directly from the experiences of the women in that room, and getting to watch it, you know what I'm talking about, right? And getting to watch this moment with my daughter and my wife was just like, it was really magical. So yes, their voices are vitally important to the show. We couldn't have done it without them.
And are you excited for young Asian women and just like families sitting down to watch this? Because, you know, we don't get enough representation sometimes in the shows with teenagers. So, like, how vital was that to you? How important was it?
Yeah, even, you know, starting with the comic, I knew when, you know, Brian sent me the pitch, diversity is so important, you know, and representation is so important. And to be able to do that and also do it in a period piece, you know, from 1988, it just shows you that the world has always been diverse, you know, but we just haven't always wanted to recognize that.
We didn't just pop up out of
Right,
nowhere.
yeah, and the cool thing is, you know, I think the show is for, you know, pretty much for everybody. You know, like, you can watch it as a kid, you can also watch it as an adult, and there's ways into the story, because, you know, when you're 12, you're starting to ask yourself, who do I want to be? And that's a question that follows you, you know, throughout your life, and as you get older, it only becomes more poignant.
Obviously, this is a, you know, a still medium, no movement, no sound. What was the moment that you were keenest to see kind of come to life? Whether that was like a song you always knew you wanted included, or just the, you know, like a movement or something, some piece of action that you really, the thing that really hit you hardest the most as the creators when you saw it live.
I think for me, it's just the ability to work with actors is such a joy. That Cliff as the artist is sort of our director and our entire cast. It's so much to put on his shoulders. And it was fun to open it up to now say, let's meet some new people and see what they bring to the roles. So just, I mean, casting is so difficult, the best of circumstances, but trying to find people who are actually, you know, around 12 years old to do this, I didn't think they would be able to pull it off. And the fact that they did so brilliantly, that was a thrill.